Hello, I'm Olu, an economics teacher. We're now on part two of the Keynesian diagram. Stick around, you might like what I've got for you. I'm going to just share my screen right now. We're in the Keynesian diagram, okay? Let me just put myself here, get myself here. There you go. Okay, so we're going to continue. If you've missed the first video, you need to go back and perhaps watch the first video. Because I explained the reason for the shape of the Keynesian diagram. So let's move it forward a little bit. Okay. Now, at this place here is what you call the real GDP. So let's label it as the real GDP, and I will show you real GDP. Okay, that's the real GDP. Remember, the LRS shows the total supply of all the goods and services in the economy, the value of the total goods and services in the economy over a specific period of time, adjusted for inflation. Okay, so it will give you the monetary value of the domestic currency over a period of time, adjusted for inflation. Remember, it's final goods and it has to be adjusted for inflation. Okay, so it literally shows the growth of the economy. It shows economic growth because it actually shows it's adjusted for inflation. Okay, and that's what you call real GDP. Here is what you call the price level, and this would be the average price level of all the goods and services supplied over a period of time. So you supply lots of goods and services over a period of time, and the average price level will be PL. Okay, we talked about YFE. Please go back to the first video. I explained this, the full employment. Now, what we have to do to see the state of the economy, we need to see where the aggregate demand is. Aggregate demand is the total demand in an economy. Okay, so let's draw an aggregate demand. It slopes downwards. I won't go into why it slopes downwards here. You learn that in microeconomics when you do demand and supply, but it does slope downwards. And where the AD meets the LRS is what you call the equilibrium. And that's just the balance. I want you to imagine if you, for example, were making baskets, you made a basket, you're quite skillful in making baskets, you produce a basket. Okay. Now, somebody wants to buy it. That's the demand. You've produced it. Somebody wants to buy it, and then you agree a price. And then you have an equilibrium. Okay. Where LRS meets AD, and there's a price level, it's balanced, and that's it. So this effectively will show the state of the economy. So looking at the state of an economy, that is actually this is what you call, you should label this Y. It's a bit, I should remove, let me just change real GDP, put it a bit further away. Put it a bit further away. Real GDP. Okay, so this part here is going to be, let's call it Y. So the economy is at Y. Okay, now looking at the economy at Y, what do you notice? Because when we're talking about full potential, it should be at YFE. Okay, but the economy right now is actually at Y. Remember, LRS represents all the goods and services produced. You produce these goods and services when you feel there's going to be enough demand. However, there are reasons why aggregate demand might be a further distance or a far distance away from the LRS. There could be reasons. For example, we've just come out of, hopefully we've just come out of coronavirus. Anything can happen. There could be maybe the government has increased taxation. Anything can happen to actually have a gap between AD and the LRAS. Okay, there's quite a substantial gap. That gap is what you call, it's a negative output gap. Okay, and a negative output gap is simply the difference between the potential, which is YFE, and the actual, which is Y. So all that represents a negative output gap. Yeah, I'll use another color just to highlight that. This represents a negative output gap, the gap between YFE, which is the potential of the economy, and the actual, where the economy is at. Okay, remember, LRS represents all the goods and services. AD represents the actual demand for these goods and services, the expenditure on these goods and services. Okay, and remember the formula will be AD is equal to C plus G plus I plus X minus M. Remember that formula? Very, very important formula. This shows the level of expenditure in the economy. And what this shows is that, you see, the economy is right now at point Y. It shows there's a potentially probably a recession. There's a lot of unemployment. Remember, YFE represents full employment. Everyone that wants work has got work. If the economy is at point Y, it shows that the distance between Y and YFE is unemployment. Apart from being a negative gap, is also unemployment. Okay. Now, what Keynesian really is about, it really is about trying to in the depression, the Great Depression in the 1930s. The economy was stagnant. They were following the classical argument, which we'll go into later. But Keynesian was really of the opinion you really need to stimulate the economy by stimulating AD through the use of fiscal policies, expansionary fiscal policies, which is government spending and taxation. So the idea is that you spend on the economy and then AD will hopefully shift to the right. So AD will shift to AD1, and then you have a new equilibrium point at Y1. So obviously you're getting much closer to full employment. So we'll explore this a little bit further in our next videos when we look at the Keynesian argument against the classical argument. So we'll develop this further down the field with other videos, but this time I'll bring classical into it. So hopefully you understand why the curve is shaped the way it is, and you understand the fundamentals of the Keynesian diagram, and we can move it further by exploring it a little bit more with the classical. So please share, subscribe, and like. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Bye bye.